Hi, everyone. Let's start our today's meeting. My name is Nikos Panagiot. I'm Associate Professor at School of Journalism and Mass Media Communication of Aristotle University in Thessaloniki, and also in charge of DCNC Hub that is headquartered in Thessaloniki. This is our actually 8th webinar in the row. We are very happy that we have initiated this initiative early enough, almost from mid of March. And up until now, it seems that we have been going very well in terms of people that follow up the webinars and also the discussion that we have initiated. All these webinars are organized together with Digital Communication Network and also World Learning. Especially today, with today's webinar, it is organized in cooperation with Alumni Network of the Professionals for South Central Asia. And as I told you before, with Digital Communication Network, which is funded and supported for State Department Office for Citizens Exchange. Actually, today's topic is something that it has been at the center of the discussion, a discussion regarding how all COVID-19 have changed the landscape of education, that all across the world we have seen actually a smooth transition, I might dare to say, in going online. And this is actually the topic that we discussed today with Professor Sherry Hope-Calver from Temple University. Sherry has been a good friend for years now, and she's an expert in media literacy and in charge of Temple University Center for Media Literacy, and also Vice President of GAPMIL, UNESCO, which is a global alliance for media literacy. Then we have with us also Dr. Salman Ahmad, is a lecturer in business and management at the Online Learning Department, University of Derby, UK. He has been involved in designing and delivering educational programs for many years and has extensive experience in teaching in diverse environments. The success of his work has received global recognition, including an award presented by the Queen of England on 2015. And also we have actually with us Kirasa. Thank you very much everyone for being with us and following our webinars. We're looking forward for a lively discussion. You know, the following will be the structure of today's webinars. We will have a presentation from our speakers, and then we will actually open up the floor in order to generate a wider discussion among us on a topic that we consider it is really important for today and also for tomorrow. Shall we start with Sherry? Sorry, the floor is yours.
Let me unmute myself there. Nikos, can you just tell me how much, so I should just take just like 5 minutes?
Yes, or even 7 minutes, no worries about it. It's actually a community of discussion, Sherry, and this is why we're really happy of what we are doing, because it ended up creating a community of people that they follow almost every webinar and generate a very lively discussion.
Well, I'm thrilled to be here, and I appreciate the time we were able to work out, because I'm actually, today is my last day of teaching in my semester. And so I've got a number of classes, one that is going to be starting in a little over an hour and then 15 minutes or something. So I'm really glad to be with everyone. So I can't, Nikos, can I share my screen with that PowerPoint that I had? All right, so
Yes.
I'm not going to like inundate you with PowerPoint slides, don't worry. And I'm actually going to skip over the things that are about me, because Nikos told you things and you can always do some searches. But I did want to just, I guess I've been thinking quite a bit about where we are today and how that experiences of yesterday are going to be shaping tomorrow, and what are the situations that we find ourselves in. This is a picture of me from a class that I did a few years ago that was when I was teaching abroad in London. And I thought quite a bit about that experience, because normally I'm sitting in a classroom in Philadelphia, and I have students there. And when I went to London, and I was taking them on trips and I was with them much more, I realized that they were getting to know me in a much more personal way. And I resisted that at first. I thought that that was going to change the authority that I had in class. But actually, it ended up being the best thing that ever shaped my teaching. And I think about that a lot with what I'm going through right now, that my students are seeing me in my home, sitting in my room on a sofa, my dog beside me, my family coming in every once in a while, and that the humanity of that has really improved the teaching environment, not changed it for the worse. Today, but to counter that, today I actually received an email from a student this morning who has been completely dropped out of class completely without any word. And we are really concerned about the mental health of our students and what's happening, because this is someone who was very active in class. And then we switched to online, and she went from someone who was participating to someone who was not present. I wrote her several emails. Are you okay? What's happening? She never responded. And those are signals for, right, someone in really a mental health distressful situation. Luckily, she did respond today, but she is having mental health issues, which many of them are. So I think the conversations I'm having with my university that are really around the balance, right, between wanting to teach the content that we really need to communicate, with recognition that everyone is going through extremely difficult situations, some difficult for some more than others, but that we need to be cognizant of that. And actually, the university had decided to allow students to change their minds, right? We were probably 2/3 through the semester when the quarantine started, and that they're allowing them to choose to take the course for no credit. So it's not a pass fail, which I know some universities are doing. It's actually, the course will end up on their transcript, but they can take it for no credit. So all of these things, without getting into too much detail about that, all of those things have really altered, I think, not just the way we're thinking about teaching now, but what it will be in the future. For me, when I think about the positive aspects of it, I think that there are this closeness and this opportunity to build a community is different and in some ways better than the face-to-face classroom. I know that myself, and this webinar is proof of it, I have opportunities to connect with people in many more informal and formal learning opportunities. Conferences that I was not able to afford to go to are now online. So there are connections that we are able to make that we weren't able to make before. I know we have limited time, so I'm not going to read through everything that's on here. I think I'm going to just go to the next slide, and then I'll be able, because I know I'm probably at my 5 minutes already. The biggest challenge. Okay, the biggest challenge.
No worries. I mean, it's okay.
Thank you. That I see right now is that there's a growing disconnect with being online. So I'm sure you've all had the feeling of being zoomed out by the end of the day, that we're in many, many, many Zoom meetings and online classes, and everything in life is online now. And keeping students connected and feeling like they want to be there. On the one hand, they want to talk about the virus. On the other hand, they're tired of talking about it and thinking about it. We're also dealing with a number of differences around whether people feel it's better to do the classes synchronous or asynchronous. I've been really opting for synchronous. I want to build community in my class, and I feel like that can only happen when we're face-to-face as much as possible. But then we're having to deal with the technology inequalities. So who has a laptop or a computer that they're using? Are they on a phone and trying to see? Because you can't see everyone in class in the same way that you could if you're on, like I'm on a laptop now, I can see you all in the grid, right? And even though there's a limit to how many people I can see, I do have an opportunity to see faces. I've encouraged my students to use their cameras and not just audio. Some people, I have a student who every time he's in class, he's in his bed and he's lying on his side in bed with the cover pulled up, but he participates. He's completely engaged, but that's where he is. I have a colleague, a professor, who literally has converted a closet in her home into her space for her office because that's the only way she can get some privacy. So there are things that are lovely about having my dog next to me, and then there are things that are disruptive about that. So the fact is that, you know, each individual person is dealing with that. So I think that is a real challenge in teaching, right? In trying to provide equal learning opportunities for all of our students when everybody is in a very different situation. And that really continues into all of our professional environments as well. So, you know, I imagine that many of you are dealing with a lot of those same issues. And I feel like we're still at the, you know, we're at the early stages of it. My university at this point has decided to continue online through the summer, but no one's made any commitments to the fall. I've been told that it will likely be a combination of online and face-to-face. But the opportunity for the university to save money by doing things online is a pretty powerful incentive to keep the learning online. So I'm not sure what will happen in the future. I'm really interested in hearing what some of the other experiences are from folks. And I can dig deeper into any one of these topic areas, but I want to sort of open it up and let other people talk, and then we can share. Thank you.
Thank you, Sherry, for actually the brief introduction and the discussion about how you view it from the US. Now, I would like to pass the floor to Dr. Salman Ahmad. Salman, the floor is yours.
I thank you, Nicholas, and thank you very much, Sherry, for sharing your experiences with me. And thanks, Nicholas, you already introduced me, so I won't spend time much on introduction. I will straight go on to my presentation. And I don't have slides to share with you today, but the topic, considering the nature of the topic, I divided it how coronavirus has impacted our lives in terms of our education sector, and largely different groups of people and participants, considering them. I divided my whole session based on like 4 parts, which are challenges. We will talk about some opportunities, trends, and solutions, which can stay longer after even the virus pandemic has ended, or we will return to our normal lives. So let's first discuss the challenges we are facing in the education sector due to this coronavirus. First, obviously, this was a forced experiment. Universities were not prepared. Although universities have started going into online and digital education quite a long time and started establishing departments, and also more programs like edX is one of the largest managed by different university consortiums. But still, the speed and was not as the pace was not as it should be as compared to the developments in other sectors and other digital technologies. So when it became the pandemic has became as a forced experiment to go digital for everybody, it was quite a panic situation, and many problems have emerged which were not before, and we realize, oh, they are quite big challenges. A few of them I have brought here, which I will be discussing now. First of all, engagement is one of the major challenge, I think. Student engagement, learners engagement, and engagement from the academic side as well, academics, because line managers, academics, and students, all sectors, and administrative and sports staff, everybody is working digitally from homes. So how they all are on one page and delivering the best education experience, it's very difficult. And literally I ended up teaching some seminars where I was only teaching myself, nobody appeared. And I also ended up teaching seminars where I was expecting few students and there were many students and they were live, and they are changing behaviors for students. So this is one of the challenge we are facing in the education sector, and I think that need to be addressed with good research, and it will take time. And I think it needs also time for people to adjust with the digital systems, and then the second important challenge, which is very important for the developing countries like Pakistan, South Asian countries, is the digital capabilities. were we ready, not as individual learners, but also from the perspective of universities? Did we have all the resources in place to go online quickly? Or even if we are online now, do we have resources which are strong enough to take this wave longer, like how long we can survive online education with these current digital capabilities? We need to spend resources on these, and from all perspective, from the academic perspective, from the universities as facilitators, and from also from the perspective of learners. We need to increase the digital capabilities of learners so that they can absorb the education the way they were doing it in the in-person education in universities on campuses. And another factor, I think it's a big challenge nowadays, because have you seen so many courses? If you open your Facebook, you will saw like hundreds of ads of online courses. Everybody looks like everybody turned into an academic or teacher or some kind. It's good, but it's also challenging, because information intelligence has become very important. For what information you are receiving is important, you need to be able to synthesize, and that's the capability. I think we were way behind in many other countries, because education is very important for learners, but which education, who is teaching good? Do they have degrees enough? Do they have capabilities to teach? So, and this is something we can't give certificates to each and every person teaching online, but we need to train our learners, we need to aware them, we need to educate them, that you need to be able to understand, you need to be able to make decisions, that who is right, who is wrong, what information is correct, what is wrong. This is very important in this scenario, and it's a big challenge, and especially from South Asian perspective and all these countries, and also East Asian. So it's pretty much all over the world, it's a big challenge now we are facing. Another, we all are seeing everyone has very nice backgrounds, but one being part of this online learning department is emerging factor, which is copyrights problems. When you teach something in the lecture room and you present slides and you use a picture, that's not part of copyrights. But when you're teaching online and it's being recorded and you presented a slide and use a picture, and this recording become copyright, it comes under the copyright laws. So somebody who owns that picture, which we use in our slide, can come to us and ask for, or you use my picture, even if we used in the recording. So there are very thin lines. We need to be careful now, and our laws, regulations, all these, and we need more awareness before these sectors. And final one in challenges which I selected for today is understanding the changing behavior of people, how people behavior have changed through all this scenario, and how people are reacting towards education, how they are willing, and we can see, as Sherry has discussed, we are turning into minimalistic strategy, where we are thinking that we don't need so many resources to do many other things. Some things can be done with very smart way, with very limited resources. We were spending too much money on traveling and all these resources to go into the campuses and getting education. So these were some challenges, and obviously they are not all challenges with this pandemic. There are many opportunities, many, but I think one word which can cover all of these opportunities is, this is an opportunity for us to developmental leap. This just a phrase from the baby developmental process, where, because we were not developing with the pace the technology was growing, but this is the time we can learn this, and we can take this leap with the help of this forced experiment for everybody. And we can train our educator, we can train masses, we can educate them, and we can prepare our resources. And now let's come to the trends with these opportunities, how the trends are changing in the education sector for future. What I see being a part of digital education for a few years, I think the future trends are more into independent learning. Learners will be in the control of, the control is shifting from universities, from educators, in the hands of learners. They will be more controlled of their learning process. So we need to be prepared for that. How they will, as Sherry said, somebody is just kind of sleeping and participating and well engaged. They are well engaged. Sometimes they don't want to. You give them something and they don't prepare it. That's the control they got now. They were not in control when they were in campuses. And second trends I'm seeing, on-demand learning. We are going away from the long programs where somebody is coming. We are looking for future more small courses, maybe small parts of like chunks. You are not looking for 6 months course to learn. You are looking for maybe small segment which you can learn in 3 hours and go and work for that. So these are future trends I'm seeing. And as a solution, what I believe that blended learning, as Shari said, the universities are also thinking about that blended learning. Some part is online and some part is on campus. I think that's a future. And while designing these solutions, we need to be careful. There must be cognitive presence. Students must be able to learn and engage with these materials, and teaching presence needs to be there. There must be academics who will must be there to support the learning process, and social presence should be in these solutions. It's very important because one part of learning process is social. We learn socially from each other. We learn from each other's experiences. That's all. Like from, and that's the way we create a learning environment which is very helpful for all stakeholders in this problem. Thank you so much for your opportunity, and I think that's all from you for this. And
thank you, Salman. Thank you for accepting our invitation as well. And up until now, our two speakers actually have highlighted the opportunities that exist, but also the challenges. I would like actually to ask Asma as well to comment on that. Asma, do you also see, what are the challenges that you see from your own perspective, actually? Asma, yes, do you want to unmute yourself because it's muted? Thank you.
I'm very grateful to all of you for providing me this opportunity where I can share my ideas with you people. So basically, as per our discussions, I would be talking more about the ground realities. Recently, Prime Minister of Pakistan, Imran Khan, launched a tele school channel, and the basic aim was to provide uninterrupted learning at the doorstep of the people, especially in the lockdown situation that may continue for months and months. Nobody knows. So, like, if I talk about the positive things, keeping it the I talk about the background of the Pakistani society. More than 70% of our population live in rural areas. So the basic aim was to mitigate the rural and urban gap and to provide uninterrupted learning to that 70% population living in the villages. And it can help the parents to provide education at the doorstep. Most of the people around me, they term it as a great concept, especially for the remote areas or the far-flung areas. Is available. And if I share, like, more than 20 million children are out of school. They didn't have an access to the primary education. So with the help of this initiative, we would be able to reach out to that segment of society that has been deprived since long. After a successful review of this program, we are planning it for the adult, for another adult initiative as well, keeping in view the success ratio. So I see, but a day before yesterday, I was there, being an implementing organ of the country, a part of bureaucracy. I was there to have a feedback from the university students. They are having some issues. Like, one of them is IP static, like it's a controlled kind of environment that they complained, because most of the students, they just join the class, and after that they just switch off the video and they mark their attendance, and then they just leave the class. And another issue that came into the knowledge was, like, they say, like, sometimes even recorded lectures are telecasted and they are unable to ask questions, or they are not satisfied with the kind of stuff that is being shared with them. They cannot answer. It's a controlled kind of environment, or they cannot question their teachers. Of course, like, if we talk about the researches around, it's a proven fact that nothing can take place the live personality of a teacher in the class. But we have to keep in mind the corona emergency situation as well, as we just hear the people around that it can take, as I already discussed in the beginning, that it can take months and months. So we cannot just stop the learning process. So I see like it's a beneficial in the sense like you can provide distance education to your to the large segments of societies, university students, your school students. And the idea of online education is not a new to Pakistan. Virtual learning are doing pretty well. And in 2019, the researchers of that university, they were awarded the highest award of the country as well.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Asma, for your contribution. And also, I would like also to ask Saurabh also to give his perspective also from the ground as well, and especially if there are issues that we need to deal with, because what we have seen up until now that some societies across the world, and this is one of the benefits of these webinars that we organize, that we want to combine, and also since we attract the attention from the whole world, this everyday experience that we have and different perspectives. So Saurav, do you want to take it over from here and actually bring your own perspective as well and your experiences? Yes, are you there? Okay. Saurav, can you hear us? Okay, let me just open up the space for the discussion. And based what Asman have actually argued, what are do you think that some fragments of our society, some people, I mean, might face difficulties in reaching online education? Asman, what do
Yes,
you think?
yes, I absolutely agree with what you are saying. Because if I talk about the internet access or the connectivity, so I already shared with you guys that more than 70% of the population of the country, they are residing in villages. And of course, they cannot have the internet access or the connectivity as the people living in urban areas could have. So this can be a handicap. This can be a handicap.
Yes.
I mean, I actually
Yes,
think
sir.
I think that there is a danger of having this be worse. That the differentiation in terms of what people have access to for education could be made much worse online. In some ways, we think of it as being such an equalizer because everybody can get online, but everybody can't get online. And even if they can get online, they're not getting online the same way with the same speed or with the same technology. And so there's quite a big difference. And I see that difference even within the United States. But when you think about it globally, that's right. I mean, what Asma is saying is taking it to another level. So I think there is a danger. Someone was saying like this all happened, this forced, you know, migration onto online, and everybody was pushed to do it. There's some aspects of that that are wonderful, but the speed of that meant that a whole lot of people were left behind, including the teachers.
Yes, this is an important aspect. I totally agree. Salman?
Well, I believe that it is going to have a great impact, and I agree with Shari and Asma. Like the problem is not the people who can access these technologies. That's why I mentioned that digital capabilities are very important, not from the perspective of learners only, from the universities as well. Very large. I know many well-known, very historic universities. They are very good in global rankings. They are left far behind in the education, and they're looking towards the universities which are relatively new and more modernistic, more different way, because they were leading on the platforms of online education. So there is a divide, and and also we need to consider even the people who can access the education and digital capabilities they have to access this online education. We need to consider that there's an issue, and not everybody has different behavior, different mindset, different home background. We have struggled a lot in our Western countries, also in developing countries, that home work-life balance. But now we are turning where work and your personal life are all becoming one. So we need to again think about it, how we are going to manage that, where you are not being expected that when you are working from home, your 9 to 5 hours are not the same as your 9 to 5 hours working. It's all changing spectrum. We need to think, it's a whole model is changing. That's why I mentioned that maybe it's an opportunity for us for developmental leap, because as Asma raised one issue, that students just open their videos or a classroom, they made the attendance and then they disappear because they turned off the camera. So it is highlighting and reinforcing the importance of student engagement in the online teaching, which was not happening before very well. I think we need softwares, we need technologies. There's many softwares available, but they are in the developmental stage. They are in the experimental stages where students can be engaged as the same way as we engage them in the classrooms. Like there is one of them we use sometimes Edpuzzle, where you give students to watch a video, but within the video you ask questions, and students have to answer the question to continue watching that video. So and you can when you are looking at the stats, you can look at that, how much time each student has spent on the video, at what time they left the video, and how many questions they answered throughout the process, and did they answer and went away, either they're wrong or right. So all these challenges and technology is emerging. I think there is a burden from our side, like we need to cope with the technology. It's also I can see a future burden on technology sector, all digital companies, because they same like our medical sector, they are working on developing vaccines. We have put pressure on technology side. They need to generate new technology platforms, new opportunities for people to bring them on the same level where they can access education with the same mindset. I think it's very important.
Yes, and I think that
Salman,
Asma, just give me a minute only just to summarize, because I
sorry.
want to include also Sarah.
Yes.
No, not at all. That's a very important issue that all of you mentioned and brought it on the table. We have a stereotype that online learning is an equalizer, but equally beneath it, there are tremendous issues that equally needs to be addressed in order to overcome this actually access in online learning. I would like to take a comment also from Sauraf, because before he couldn't hear us actually. Sauraf, can you hear us now?
Hi.
Hi. Thank you.
I'm sorry. It's very raining over here, so I I couldn't respond at that time. So on our experience, so immediate after, I'm from Nepal, and immediate after the lockdown, we started online activities for the kids. Actually, I'm not work for the schools, but I facilitate for the one of the schools. So one of the interesting fact that we realized that, so this process, we need to be very closely work with the parents, because without understanding all the process. So actually we try to do through this Google Classroom. So it will take few weeks to understand how to use the Google Classroom to the parents, not the kids. So I think the similarities with the technology is very, and to make, how to make is user-friendly kind of things is very interesting phenomena. Like our country, where our parents are not very used to with the technology, or they are not very savvy with the technology kind of thing. So I think this kind of relationship between parents, kids, and the teachers is also very important in terms of doing this successful approach.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Sauraf. Asma, you wanted to say something and I interrupted you before we start taking the questions from the public, because they're very important questions.
Yes,
Asma?
like I was interested in knowing, and I would like to have some comment from Salman about the engagement, because being a field officer, the kind of feedback I could get, the engagement of student was the biggest issue that is being faced. Like the classroom, the online classroom or the Google classroom, it's not as much dynamic as is the live class where teacher is physically present in the class. So lack of creativity, lack of discipline, these are the complaints that we are receiving from the teachers.
Yes, thank you for that. Do you actually, Christiana Varda raised a question regarding how do we protect students and ourselves from technology fatigue, especially if we want to make this digital leap post-crisis? It's a question that relates totally with what we're discussing now. Did everyone hear the question? Sherry,
Yeah.
do you want to
Yes,
respond
yes,
first?
go
And
Yeah,
then
I do think, there's a skill set that we need to develop. Now how we get trained on this is a question, but the skill set is about, and Salman actually touched on this, which is the when you're living your entire life online, how do you compartmentalize your life? And we've had that, feeling a little bit with our, devices that we've been carrying around. But the idea that you would self-structure your life. So when you are a student or you're a professor or whatever you do for your work, you get up in the morning, you leave your house, you go somewhere and do that. Maybe you go somewhere else for some socializing, then you come home and you have something else. When that's all in the same space, then that's relying on you to make that differentiation. And there are ways to do that. But I think what we need to, and I've tried to have some of these conversations with students and faculty about the need to develop the self organization to be able to determine for yourself, I'm going to do this from this hour to this hour. Then, this is my section of work time. This is my section of home time. And for you to put those boundaries up, even though we can get to each other all the time, it's not healthy and it's not productive. I mean, there's been a lot of research showing that we're much more productive when we know that this is time that is focused on a particular activity and then move on to another activity. And so trying to help everyone, and I think that's true for all of us, for the parents, for the students themselves, for the professors, and for there to be a respect about that, so that when someone says, yes, I'll be online until 6, that there's a respect that after that, that's not what I'm in my other part of my day. But that's a skill set that we're all online all the time. That requires real thinking and adjusting that has to happen still.
it is actually what Salman has said before, like that we are constantly online. I mean, there's no separation. Salman, do you want to respond to the question?
I agree with the question. That's one of the big fear, I think. I never thought I will be afraid to use my mobile. I don't want to use my mobile or laptop anymore because I want to get time out of these things. But this is the time, previously I was looking for the opportunities to use my mobile all the time, but now I want to get rid of them and I want to go. I can't believe that people really want to go out of their homes just to go. They are breaching all the regulations and going out in the parks. They never wanted. Everybody was asking them to go and connect with the nature. No, it's changing behavior. That's what I'm thinking. There will be a big change when we will come out after this pandemic lockdown as a society. It won't be same as we were living before. It will be completely changed. Not from the perspective of virus or vaccines. I'm talking about behavioral perspective. People will be changed society, how we react or how we perceive to things. I would also like to answer Asma's question where she asked me how people they can keep students engaged. I think that's where Asma, we need to engage technology and we need to be careful because previously we need to understand the studies and behaviors of people meeting live, because meeting people online is different from meeting people face to face. Obviously there was studies when we were teaching live in campuses that after 45 minutes, no students can concentrate on the subject matter, on the content. When you are teaching in the classroom, real classroom, after 45 minutes, you need to change, you need to give them the break. That's why mostly lectures were divided like 1.5 hour lectures or 1 hour lecture. 1.5 hour means like 45-minute lectures, and then they go on break, and then they go on discussions and activities. So they were the changing. But in online time frame, like when you are in front of camera or in front of your laptop, it's just 6 minutes. Nobody will watch a video longer than 6 minutes and it's MIT study. Nobody can watch longer than 6-minute video and concentrate same way as they can and it's a diminishing interest. When they are reaching towards the 6 minutes, their interest starts going down. So after 6 months, they are not interested. So we need to create content in that way. So that's that we bring. So academics, here we need to be aware. Academics are not the learning designers. They are the different people. They are not the technology. So in this whole situation, we think that the same academic, he's also need to learn the technology and start learning, teach. Technology is from people who are, they have the capabilities of technology. Academics can support them. So it's, and another thing, same way, teaching with PowerPoints is not effective in the online learning space. You can't present PowerPoints anymore. It's more becoming like sportive environment where you present the content, students teach, and it's more passive learning. Then you start discussion as we are doing now. It's more learning process. So we need to find the ways, I think, and that's the importance of learning designers who can work with the technology people and academics to design the programs in a way which can be delivered online more effectively. And that's what something our University of Derby online learning department is doing very well, because we have very sophisticated systems in place where we don't teach with PowerPoints. We actually have content available for students, which is divided based on units. And then we have teaching support available. And then we have online webinars. And another thing, along with lectures, we were doing in the live session in campuses, we were doing like seminars where students were more engaged, less in number. But here in online learning, we are doing this online discussion forums. So we have discussion forums where students engage with the learning content. So we need to design these methods and these technologies in a way which we can. But bear in mind, again, the digital capabilities, again, heavy on everything. Anything you can design here, but what if the learner has not the digital capabilities or not the resources to access these available content and all these online help? So
that's why I actually combined the question that we received regarding technological fatigue with how teachers can correspond, as Asma also asked. Asma, do you want to respond to the question regarding technology fatigue actually?
Sorry, actually, I couldn't hear the question properly. If you could repeat it for me.
Okay, the question is the following. How do we protect students and ourselves from being overwhelmed by this technology use? If I may translate the question.
Yes, well, it's a very interesting question, and I must say, like, it's a pertinent too. Well, I think like we have to keep the degree of attention, passion, optimism, and interest of the students alive. And this can be done only with the help of some dynamic courses that are designed particularly keeping in mind this fatigue, and some some fruitful discussion, as Salman quoted it. It can help us mitigate the kind of fatigue that would be creating as an outcome of this online learning or the distant education.
Saraf, do you want to actually give your overview on that? Mm-hmm. Okay, probably we might have difficulties reaching Saraf, but it's okay. We'll move on. The next question is from Dimitris Dimitriadis, which is part of Digital Communication Network C-Hub and a lecturer as well. He teaches digital marketing and analytics at City University. He has, in Thessaloniki, he has the following question. Teachers generally work hard to differentiate or personalize the learning in their classroom. Is there any suggestion for this differentiation online? While you're in the classroom, you try actually to personalize and add some specific element. How does this aspect changes in the classroom? Shall we start with, who wants to start first?
I can
In
go
order
with
for
that.
me not, okay, so yes, please do.
I think here it comes the challenge of same thing. Like now students have become, they got the control of their learning process. Previously in the classrooms, we had the learning control, like process of control was in our hands. We were trying to personalize somewhere, generalize somewhere, and trying to lead the classroom in the learning process. Now the learning control is in their hands. They want to watch the video, they can continue. They don't want to watch the lecture, they just disconnect it, they just give the attendance and go away. So that's, they got the control now. And process of personalizing, there is still a generalized little bit process, like we are going to deliver lectures in a way, like just like we were using the slides and we were giving the lectures, and then we were going, we were addressing the answers where students' questions, and then we used to personalize the answers on their perspectives. But here we deliver the content, and what we are using in our methods, we have discussion forums where we give them the activities within the content, and then they perform those activities and they post their responses in the discussion forum, and then engage in discussion with the tutor. So they present their responses from their own perspectives. I think they are more personalized as compared to the classrooms now, because in classrooms, when we were asking them questions, mostly we hear that silence from most of the students if they start engaging. But here, when they bring research, they bring their perspectives, their own, when they are answering some questions in the discussion board, and they're well prepared to answer these things because they know that they are going to leave there. But here again, a problem with that attached. Many students don't want to post because they know that their answer will stay there, and everybody will be looking at. So both things are going hand in hand here. So we need to be.
Okay, thank you. Sherry, yes.
Yeah, I guess, yes, students have more control of their learning, but that doesn't mean they're capable of controlling their learning or that they want to control their learning. And you know, I'm sure many of us have had experiences with students where you create in the classroom, where you create a project that gives them a lot of flexibility, and they spend a lot of time trying to say, okay, do you want me to do this or this, exactly this or this? So there are different personalities, and people want more or less control. I do think that the desire for students to get guidance from their teachers is still very strong. And of course, that depends a lot on the age of the student as well. So younger students are going to need much more guidance than that. And teachers, to me, what's really interesting about the online space is that the foundation of what makes good teaching is exactly the same, whether you are in person or you are online. The question is, how do I bring that online? And how do I make that a rich environment online where students are able to feel like their engagement, that they have some control of their engagement, while at the same time, I am still guiding it. So in the chat, I wrote to, I was responding to a couple of things and said, one of the things that you can do in a space like this is share your screen. And so the ability for a teacher to give up control, which also takes a certain kind of teacher, to give up that control and say to a student, show us, share your screen, show us what you're looking at, show us what you're listening to, show us who you're following on Twitter, show us something, not just to talk about, but actually give control to them. We need to help them see how they can control their learning, what that skill is, and that participating in a discussion board is not just a matter of typing a couple words, but how do you really engage in active discussion in an online space? I think they need help with that. I think teachers need help with that.
Great. Asma, do you want to respond to this question as well? Let us jump into Saraf. Saraf, do you want to respond to the question?
Yes, on our experience, that I found that two interesting things. That one is when the kids gets opportunity to do a peer group learning, like on our whole day durations, we give some time to they can talk on the hangout with their friends. So it looks like that they try to give an idea to each other, like how to do the screen share, how to do their assignments. So that's and there is a very the teacher will be silent at that time. It seems that the peer group learning is very important even in these online kind of things, because some kids is very smart on the technology and some kids are very smart on their own activities. Like if there is an assignment for the art, some is very good in the art, but some kids is very good in the technology. So this blending is also a good thing. And as I mentioned earlier, that the key role of the parents is very important, that how they are giving a time to the kids. Previously, when the kids went to the schools, the parents feel that relaxed. We have a relaxed time for the 5 or 6 hours because the kids is going to the school. But now kids is every time with the parents. So parents has to be understand that, okay, so I need to be give a lot of time because I am the teacher of my kids. So and the relationship between the teacher, kids, and the parents is a very key ecosystem that I already mentioned. That is also very give a very interesting ecosystem to understand and to make more comfortable for the kids.
That's great. Asma, do you want to respond also to the question?
Yes, I must say, like, that was the point highlighted by me, and it's based on my feedback regarding the PM's initiative. So that's the complaint we received, that it's a kind of controlled environment, especially by the university faculty members that I talked about, the IP static. One of the students, she was sharing that he made a very short video. He joined the class, marked the attendance, and then that video was like quite there, and he was no more in the class to join that. So by the end of the class, she came to know, like, it's the same gesture, or it's the same. He was like, he might be like nodding or making some gesture, and it was repetitively being shown. So this thing is, I think so, like, it's not something very positive, because when you lose your interest, when you are unable to concentrate, the whole learning process is then disrupted. But I
This
must
is
share a very
agree.
Yes. Yes, Asma, go on, please.
I must share a very positive aspect. Um, I came to know about the performance of my son in comparison to the rest of the class. As in Google Classroom, everybody or every student is supposed to just upload the worksheet. So I just came to know, like, where does he actually stand? Is and how can I rank him out of the 40 or the, let's say, like 25 students of the class, and what are the areas that I need to improve, that otherwise I won't have been able to know about. Because of course by the end of the term you are just given a scorecard showing excellent, satisfactory, or good, but it's very hard to know about the areas to be focused, despite the fact that regular parent teaching meetings are there.
Okay, and taking up with what you just have mentioned, I'm going to jump into the next question. But before doing that, I would say two things. Firstly, I promise to the participants that I will not let you go without responding to every question that they have. So keep it short in order to be able to respond to every question. Asma, we'll start from you. So the question is that if tuition fees for school, this is asked from Caitlin Waters, a very active participant, actually from the States. And Caitlin asked the following: if the tuition fees for the schools of your son, for example, okay, now that online education is the new educational experience, how would that, or would that not be a justified change if they ask for more tuition fees now that they are online, going online education? Will that be justified from you as a parent? But also would like your comment as an expert as well.
Well, I personally think like it's not justified. And the school educational institutions, including the universities and schools, they must rationalize their fee structure, because in this scenario, the whole onus is being shifted to the parents. Uh, the the kind of support, the kind of things they used to get in schools, now it has to be provided by the parents solely. So I think like all the educational institutions, they must rationalize their structure, and it shouldn't be the same as has been going on and on
Okay, Sarah.
based on the ground rule.
Oh, thank you, Asma.
So we already tried to deduct the fee structure on our package, that we deduct the transportations and the food. And for the last 1 month, we did it free. Now we are trying to convince the parents that you can join as a club, like they can took a class only a 3-day in a week, or they can do on the 5-day on a week, because it's a very passive learning process. So I think we need to be redesign the fee structure. On the other hand, the beauty of this online course is you can have more students at the same time. So ultimately, you can manage the one teacher, or one class, one teacher can run multiple students. So I think there is some way to justify the fee structure.
Okay, thank you. Salman, what do you think? Is it justified to ask for more tuition fees as universities now?
Well, I'm a little bit more capitalistic view on this side. Actually, what I believe that, this is part of our development and growth. At the moment, we are all in hands of schools who are teaching, and we are working traditional model, working online. That's the way we are working now for this last few, because we are under the forced experiment. But once we will come out of this experiment, new forms of teaching will emerge, which already started emerging. We know edX is free. You can get a Harvard University course free of cost. But if you go to Harvard University to get a course, how much it costs you, we all know that. So there will new models emerge with time. But at the moment, if you are stuck because there are no competition, schools have turned into online, it's not justified at all. Obviously, there's no reason for that. But they should know that if they will not change them, many big companies are nowhere in the market, like Nokia. It was leading company when I grown up in my child home, but now there's no Nokia anymore. So we need to understand that these schools will go away. This education system is being threatened with this pandemic, because new systems will definitely emerge. New education is coming, so they need to prepare themselves. Fees is one factor. They need to develop new technologies, adopt to technologies, and also reduce their cost, because when people will have choices, they will be nowhere to give to be in those choices, because education will become more, as I said, on demand education, where you have an exam, you need to attend that exam in a central board. You can learn that from anywhere. You don't need to go into a school anymore. You can learn because previously people didn't have experience of that, but now they got experience forcefully. But now when they got experience, they learn that, oh, I can do that. My child can learn in the home in my presence very well. As Asma said, she can understand how other people are performing. Once now she learned that, it's a good thing as well. Now she will also start looking for what were the limitations for previous system. She will find better systems available which are more social for kids, where they can socialize online. They can also like blended learning online with blended learning. So all these solutions will be there. Ultimately, fees will be go away, I think. But the thing is, at the moment, they are not justified. They are obviously capitalist view, these people, and they are trying to reap as much benefits they can get from this pandemic situation.
Thank you,
Nicholas,
Sherry. Yes,
I'm
Asma.
sorry.
Yes, I'm sorry, Asma.
Sorry. Actually, I couldn't hear your voice, so that's why I just. You can continue, please. I can afterwards.
Okay.
Well, as I say, that's what part of. I mean, I agree with so much of what you're saying, Salman, but that's what really concerns me a great deal. So when I think about preschool through whatever 12th grade or whatever the secondary school line is in your country, that is something that we have generally worldwide has been an agreement that we should be able to offer that to students for free. That should be part of public education. But what happens in higher education? We're going to end up with such a huge line if what happens is that online learning becomes cheaper ultimately, or more compartmentalized, where you can you can take the degree online from Harvard, you can take the course from Harvard online if you want to, not the degree. But to get the degree from Harvard, you have to go. You have to be able to pay to live there. You have to pay for room and board. You have tuition fees. So wealthier people are going to be the ones that end up in those places. And we're going to end up with a Harvard degree that is, or any, choose your university, a degree that enables you to get that full experience of the relationship building that happens face to face and everything else that happens in a face to face college higher ed environment, versus admittedly wonderful, but the learning that's happening, which is only one piece of what people are really buying when they are in higher ed. And then, so that really concerns me, that this commodification of education is going to get deeper and deeper and deeper, and we're going to end up with fewer people who are able to afford and access a sort of the breadth of knowledge that happens potentially in higher ed.
This is, before going to Asma, I would like actually to take up the question from Emma. Emma is asking how we can overcome the basic digital literacy need that we need to address in order to move forward the online learning. But also she asked, we need to think about how we do deep learning online. That's a major question she asked. So we start now from Saurabh and then move to the rest of you. Saurabh, what do you think? How we can address the deep learning online?
It's an interesting challenge. For now, we can go to the so it's all about passive learning approach. So we give assignment, we give some videos kind of things, and the students need to go through that process. And also we try to give some extra activities. They can go around their house, look around their plants kind of thing. So for now, it's also a learning process for us, that how deep we can go through on this whole process. But I realize that the technology is a tools, so to communicating with the kids. But our traditional approach on the learning cycles that we do a deeper conversations, give a space for their own activities that's remain even in their house. They can create this kind of environment. So on that, blending those two ideas, like the activities, whatever activity they used to do in the school, physical school, we need to give such an environment on their house or on their surroundings. So that is the one way that we can build this deep learning process, I think.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Asma, what do you think about this deep learning?
Yes, I would say like we have to focus on three areas basically. Like we have to be very, very particular about the behavioral engagement, like how we can just get the participation of students in the curricula, in the whole education system, the whole academic, social, and extracurricular activities. The second thing is like we have to involve the student emotionally as well. Like how can we have the reactions in their classrooms, schools? How can we infuse or inculcate a sense of belongings or connectedness to the whole of the class or the system? That's quite new, if not altogether new, but that's relatively new for them as well. And third and the last thing is like we have to go for cognitive engagement as well, like how the students are investing, how they are ready to invest in their learning, and how far we have been successful in motivating and self-regularization of the students as well. And the thing that I was about to share with all of my alumni, we have got the fantastic feedback as I talked about the PM's initiative, we have launched a tele school channel basically. So we have this involved some government channel, PTV, Pakistan Television Network, and it doesn't require any internet connectivity or the digital access issue as we already talked about. So it's helping us a lot to mitigate the disparity between the rural and the urban gap,
Mhm.
as it doesn't require the consumer charges or the internet
Mhm.
connectivity, and it's accessible to the people across the country. We are getting a very good response regarding this tele school channel. So I must say it's a very fantastic idea designed by the whole team, and we being the implementing organ of the state, we are putting in our best efforts in order to catch the attention of those students who has been dropped out. Even as I shared earlier, like 20 million children of my country, they are out of school. So we have been able to attract those children and the parents who couldn't have an access to the schools, and keep based on the success of this idea, will be the second step is like we'll be going for adult education on the similar pattern. We have divided the timings for the intermediate and the degree class students, and the curriculum is designed very meticulously.
Before responding to that question, I would like to bring Sophocles Geroulis because I'm afraid we might run out of time because I just don't want to lose any question. Sophocles asks, to what extent can the successful implementation of the digital model be used as a precedent, significantly reducing the valuable physical interaction between teaching staff and students, especially regarding the issues of inspiring and guiding the students through a personalized relationship. Sophocles brings up the issue of personalized relation that is part of the educational process. Just before passing the floor to Sherry to respond to the question, Annie Kevarnadze actually asked what resources do you use in online lessons. Sherry responded to that. Of those of you that you want to share a response to Annie, because it's a kind of technical question, please feel to do it now that you respond. Sherry, regarding the question of personal relationship that guides actually or is part of the educational process.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that there are some teachers and professors that are interested in developing that personal relationship, and some are not as interested in doing that. You know, if you, many of my classroom when we're together, whether this is synchronous or asynchronous, begin with a question about how has life been going, and I've been asking questions about you know, what's been the biggest struggle that you've had so far this week, or what worked for you today, or what did you binge watch this weekend. I mean, we've been trying to have 2 minutes of conversation at least at the beginning that is about our humanity, is about who we are. And that, and there's music that's playing when they first come into the room. And I mean, there's things I'm trying to do to find a way to be more personal about it and take it, go reach through the technology into being more human about it. But the truth is also that students are not always interested in that. You know, there are days when I feel like I am on the top of my game and I am doing everything possible and they're not responding. And that could be because they're depressed. They're having a tough time. I think asking students to keep coming online, and when they forget us, they can't see their friends. That's the best part of being a young person in school, is a chance to see your friends. And when you take that away, you know, I had a friend who said, we've taken everything away from education that they love and only kept the education piece. And, you know, there's a truth to that. So I think we have to recognize that. And I think it was Surab who said something about having them, the peer piece is still so important. It is vitally important because they need to connect with each other and they need us to help facilitate that.
Yes, great. Thank you. Salman?
Well, I think pretty much first, like I agree with Shari, like it's more we it depends on tutor to tutor, like who wants to like how much personalized and what level of personalization you can take. There is always need to be a balance in that, but again, there will be some students who are not interested and some will be interested. Like I have example, I was checking with my supervisor, like my research students. I was calling them personally to check if they are going well, because I know that everything has locked down. They can't go out and collect their data and work on their research projects. So I was checking with them, and I got to know one of my students got coronavirus, and she was in home for last 3 weeks. She wasn't able to go anything or wasn't able to progress. I tried to convince her a lot that she can go for to get some extension deadlines as a safe side, but she certainly refused that. She said, no, I don't want to get any extension. I want to complete it now. Because I know that at that last time, when it will become like last hour, it will be difficult. But that's, we need to be very we are all in difficult situation, how much we can. And there is also on burden, if I'm forcing her, maybe it can go in the wrong way, like why I'm asking her to get extension if she's not interested. So all these questions are here, whereas it was not a big problem in the physical classroom when we were like in the universities, because there was completely different process of engagement, and any problems if students are facing, they go through different, like if she had any problem at that time, she was staying at home, she was not coming in the classroom. So the whole different department, student experience department was going to deal with that. So but here tutors are on the front line who need to do all bits of work. The other two questions about deep learning, and this one as well, somehow with the personalization, I agree pretty much with Asma, which was also part of my presentation. I think in this whole learning environment, we need to be careful that while designing our learning environment, that there must be presence of teaching. There must be cognitive presence, where we can understand that students are learning through all these activities. We need to provide them activities. We must ensure that there is teaching presence. Students are going through this process and they are being guided by someone, either their parents, either the tutor staff, or any type of sports there must be there. And there must be social presence. They must be able to engage with other students and other peers, because that's part of, as sort of also raised that earlier, that all these things need to be even in the online learning environment. And we need to find the tools and all that. There are tools, we just need to compile them in a way that we can create a best learning environment, making sure that all three elements are there.
Thank you, Asma.
Just one point on
Yes.
Asma's. She shared about Prime Minister's initiative. I think it's a very good initiative, and because reaching the audience, how many people can reach the internet and how many people can watch the TV channel. But there is one challenge, obviously, there that as Asma has also raised, that engagement. If we give teaching students on the TV channel, can they engage back? No, it's very difficult for them. What the system we can make give them, how they can engage back with the tutors and the learning process. Obviously, at this time, I think it's the best initiative, but there need to be system in place where students can also engage back if they want, like maybe websites or something complementary with the channel is needed, I think, to support this.
Thank you. Asma and Saurabh, just need to be short responses in order to take the final two questions and then end the event. Asma, sorry.
Yes. Yes, I would say like circumstances are one thing that I always say to my audience is that circumstances are no more normal. We are in a kind of emergency. And when you are in a state of emergency, things cannot move in a normal condition as they used to be or as they are. So this is the point we need to understand. We talked a lot about the kind of methods and the strategies and the techniques with the help of which we can involve our students by designing or devising the techniques and the strategies to gain their interest in the classrooms, and how can we make these classes more interactive. The one thing that Salman said, I must agree with that. Like we have to make these sessions more interactive. uh, Quoting one example, like I don't know, though I remember like we were asked by the word learning faculty that our webinar will start by 5:30, but exactly, I don't know like for how long we have been in this meeting. I must give the credit that it was such an interactive session where everybody was getting a chance and they didn't consider themselves left out for a single minute. So that was the reason every one of us was able to just have a focus or to not to lose our interest. So we have to keep the things in this way.
Saurabh?
I think that the personalization is a very important, especially for the younger kids, because in the physical schools they spend a lot of time with their teachers, their supervisors, and especially with their peer group. Um, that's why we try to do a small group of the teachers that they open their everyday learning by the class teacher kind of thing. Like um, they start their days, so they are very open to that teachers. They share what's technical glitch they are facing, what are the challenges, are they ready to do their everyday work for today or not, kind of thing. So I think for the younger kids it's very important to do this kind of personalizations right now, because for the kids it's a new things they are learning, new space they are learning. Gradually, yes, I agree with the other speakers that gradually they come as a discipline. Like if 11 a.m. is the reporting time, is the online, so they will come at the 11 a.m. But now they are not ready to come at the 11 a.m. because they are on the home environment at their inn. So they have a lot of issues they are raising. So the idea of personalizing is very important, and to understand the emotional intelligence kind of thing at the beginning. Then gradually the kids also develop that kind of discipline, timeliness, and everything, and they build that learning that, oh, I'm home, but I need to be attained for the school. So then these other technically they can be they can come up as a learner. Yes.
Thank you. Just to take the final questions and then finalize our meeting, there are two things. One comes from Umi, that she states that she agrees with Asma, and points out the necessity how we can make the students accountable of what they learn, the assessing what they have learned. And secondly, Shazia actually mentions that some private schools have cut the salaries of the teachers. What kind of impact can face against such action by private school owners or in the universities? I mean, that has been something that we've heard, or we have seen it happening all across the world. So the first question is about how we can assess what people learn, and secondly, how we can correspond to these strategies. Who wants to start first? Shall we start from Asma? Asma, are you there? Okay, Saurav, do you want to start then? Saurav, do you want to start first and then move on to?
Yes, the approach of cutting the salaries, I think it's not the right time. In the government, in the public institutions, it's not happening in Nepal, and even in the private schools, it's not happening right now. So they are trying to train, even they are trying to train the teachers how to do these online courses and how to adapt with these new kind of technologies, because many private schools are not into their thinking. And they used to planning about the online things, but it's happened very quickly, and there is no any options. And interestingly, we have a new session starting from this April. So every school is trying to build their capacity. Even for the teachers are on training, they are doing different kind of sessions. We're helping some of the schools to how to use this kind of new gadget, new approaches, and in other hand, how to prepare the new content, because the digital content is completely different than their regular lesson plans. So I think it's not a good time to cut their salary, but I think it's a time to invest much more on the teachers. I think that's my feedback on this.
Salman, do you want to respond?
Well, it's a critical question.
Assessing, the first one is assessing. Okay, we shouldn't forget assessing as well.
For the assessment, that's something actually I already raised with Asma, that I think she's the best person who can answer about that particular telechannel. But I agree, telechannel is the best approach at the moment to reaching a maximum audience they can reach with that. And people should also be aware that assessment is not as important as when I'm talking about at this situation, it's not about like for the longer period, like 6 months or 7 months. I'm talking about just last few weeks and just coming few weeks when we are going through this pandemic. Channel is going well and assessment is not important. We can't place everything for everywhere. We can go with, because we don't have enough resources, especially if we are talking about Pakistan. But for longer run, it's not possible. I don't think like telechannel can make a good impact if students are. It can leave some impact, but for the assessment, we need to place some other sources, complementary resources. Just I mentioned websites where some quiz need, and more than website, I think the smartphones have really revolutionized the world, and we can get China made some small phone in Pakistan maybe in $10, and people can really use that with the application. Even government can supply that to poor children, where they can through technology. If some question is being asked on the tiny channel, they can answer the question on the. But for this thing, they need to have internet access. So all things are complicated, obviously, but without like maybe an application which they can open a lesson on the application which doesn't need like download the application and then watch the question. So things are complicated. We need to be aware that, but systems are placed, people are ready to take actions. I really appreciate that government has taken some initiative, and with the longer run, I think when they will get this feedback, they will try to use that feedback to further improve it and make it better and try to make it more engagement, because without assessment, without engagement, this will not be as effective. It will be just like any other cartoon channel which kids always watch. And that's from as for the fees, schools are deducting fees from teachers, or not fees, like salaries of teachers. Again, it's same. We need to see in the perspective, many big corporations have gone into administration. We need to be careful who is being impacted. If schools are not charging the fees to students, then they have the right to reduce the fee or change the model of salaries. But if they are charging the full fees to students, even if they are in the homes not studying these days, then they don't have any right. And in this situation, I think state need to be active, and they need to be carefully watching who is doing what, because and social responsibility has become very important. How much we are, and I know that a Shack and Shake burger chain in US, they returned the money they got from the government because they think they got $150 million equity fund they can support their employees through. So we need to be socially aware, and because society needs us, we need to return in this, because after all, we all are together in this pandemic. We need to be supporting each other in this situation.
You're right. Sherry?
So two quick thoughts about it. I think as far as assessment, it's a very difficult thing to respond to here, because I think depending on whether you are using a learning management system that has embedded quiz opportunities and tests in it, or if you're doing it through television, where it would be much more difficult. I think there's a lot of different opportunities to do assessment, but they depend a lot on how the students are getting their content. And the flip side of that is there's going to end up being less assessment. But the other side of it, which has to do with the fees and the salaries, to just take off our hats as educators and put on our hat as running education systems, their registration and recruitment is being decimated because the economy across, global economy is so affected. People are going to have less money to go to pay for education, to go to higher education. That means there's less money in the budget. That means there's less money to pay for the teachers. So as a teacher, fortunately, I happen to be at a school that has a unionized teacher faculty. And so they've talked about cutting salaries, but they probably couldn't because of that reason. But the reality is, I think we're going to see that quite a bit. And they may even ask for voluntary, for the union to change that, because these are going to be, I think we're only starting to see the economic, we're going to recover, soon from the pandemic, but the economic impact of that is going to linger for a while. And, I don't want us to end on a sad note, but I think it's a difficult time to come for that. And I apologize, but my class is about to start.
Yes, okay.
I'm going to need to leave.
I would like, that's the final word. If someone wants to say something really quick, otherwise, Salman, yes?
Just one thing in the last, thank you so much for everybody. I think it's a very nice session. We got audience from all over the world, people and I would really like to listen other people's perspectives who were part of this session. And if anybody wants to connect me, I can leave my Facebook ID. You can connect me on Facebook and we can really be connected and we can talk different solutions. And I would like to learn from your experiences. I think it will be helpful for my teaching process as well, how Saurav is doing and how many other participants, what they are thinking, things can be changed because they have the real experience on ground. I think.
We will stay connected. Saurav, do you want to say something just really quick? Okay. I would just like to thank everyone very much. And what Salman have said, I just want to remind you that we are a network. This is why we aim to enlarge this network. And actually, these webinars are part of a larger coalition that is constituted by Digital Communication Network, Southeast Europe Hub, World Learning, and also this one, especially with the alumni network of the Professionals for South Central Asia, that is supported actually overall our effort from State Department. Of Citizens Exchange Office. So I would like everyone for your contribution. We will stay in touch. Next week on Tuesday, we will also have some on Tuesday, we will have about 5G, and on Thursday, we will have a webinar about gaming, which is equally important and a special one regarding education. So keep up, stay connected, stay safe, and be part of this kind of network and dialogues. Thank you very much to our speakers and our audience. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks.
Enjoy the day.